Hello, hello. Welcome to today's episode. I was just sitting here wrapping up my morning routine, and then I had this thought. I'm like, aha, I'm going to do a podcast. Yes. So welcome to today's episode. We are talking about something today that I could riff on for hours, that I could definitely start a series of TED Talks on, and I am. And not to prematurely, you know, promote something, but I am working behind the scenes to create what I would call mini TED Talks, where women from the medical career field can come and hear talks that are transformational on what I talk about here in my podcast. Overgiving and the cost of overgiving, boundaries, the power of setting boundaries and how to set them, the burnout from not having boundaries, and whatever else I talk about and in here will be getting brought to the scene where these mini TED Talks are a way for people to implement what they are hearing and get transformation in real time. It's no longer about just listening to something and not doing anything about it, not doing anything with what you're being told. It's not homework. It's not an assignment. It's not a to-do list. It's not oh, got to check this off my list today. Oh, no, no, no. There's something that happens when we start setting boundaries to protect and preserve our peace, our energy, our life. There's something that happens when we start realizing that we don't have to live in a frazzled state anymore in any area of our lives. There's something that shifts when we stop overgiving. Do you want to know what overgiving looks like? I'm going to list a few things. When you get to anything that sounds like any area that you might be overgiving, then you can nod your head and say, okay, she must be reading my mail. I do this all the time to people who are sharing things, and I'm like, are you reading my mail? Overgiving looks like offering your services for free when you provide a transformation for people. Not charging for your services, offering overgiving on social media. Overgiving in the workplace looks like saying yes to everything, yes to all the overtime, yes to tasks, piling on more on your to-do list at work so you can, look successful and look the part, right? Because why not impress your boss and your coworkers? Because we want the accolades, we want the stars, right? We even want the recognition. But when we don't get it, we realize, what the heck am I doing? But sometimes it doesn't take, we don't see, we don't see the inner chaos that's forming underneath all the overgiving and all the overdoing, all the saying yes. It even looks like taking phone calls when you don't want to talk on the phone, especially from people. I've had this happen. I have kids, so when my kids were younger, I used to enjoy talking on the phone. Now, this was before social media and this was before apps where you can, have conversations with people. And now I prefer the apps because I don't like talking on the phone. But I would have friends that would call me and literally, instead of really wanting to know anything about me, they would talk about themselves for like 2 hours. And I finally got to a place in my life where I started setting boundaries. And I started telling my friends who would call me and take up my time for literally 2 hours or an hour. And it's like, first off, they didn't ask if I was available. They didn't even want to know how I was doing. They said they did, but it was a very brief, oh, hey, how are you? And then go straight into what it was all about them. And then it was all about some phone calls were like religious stuff. Like so much so that I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I started setting boundaries and I started saying, hey, shoot me a text to see if I'm available because I also don't have an hour to be able to sit on the phone. As a mom of small children, I can't be available to you when it's all about you and want, you don't even care what I have to say. And I know that as you're hearing that, some of you might be like, oh my gosh, did, did you lose the friendship? Oh my gosh, did you die? No, I didn't die. Boundaries, they actually kept the peace for me. And it also revealed who respected my boundaries. And it also revealed whether or not people were actually a friend. Yeah, it revealed a lot. Also revealed a lot in myself. I had to stop overgiving my time just to be friends with people. Overgiving looks like saying yes to every shift available just because, you might work a certain hours. Overgiving looks like pressuring yourself to come up with something for a business. Under pressure happens all the time. Overgiving, it can happen all the time if you aren't aware that, oh my gosh, I'm overgiving. I'm doing all this stuff, but but who was it for? What is it for? What am I doing? It shows up mostly in the career, in the workplace. And this is where I see it the most, but we can also overgive in different environments like the church. We can overgive to people and not have the boundaries in place to preserve our energy. Like, for example, let's talk about having a day off. Okay. I pray that you take time off of your job and that you have days off because that's essential. Now, overgiving looks like not taking days off for fear of getting in trouble, fear of not looking successful, fear of disappointing your boss, right? Not saying yes to overtime in fear of getting in trouble. I've seen this and I've heard it distinctly from people's mouths. They want to say no, but there's something that's forcing them to say yes, but then they complain about saying yes and they're miserable because all they're doing is spending so much time at their job. And it's like, that's not the way to live. It's really not. Overgiving is a recipe for health problems, dis-ease, right? Disease, that's what that is. Dis-ease, discomfort. It's an uncomfortable way that we force ourselves to show up and keep going. Overgiving looks like scheduling all these play dates with all, your mom, the moms groups that you go to, or the dads groups. Overscheduling your schedule. I'm going to give you an example of what my life used to look like. Okay. When I was younger, my kids were younger, I believed that I had to go to college to be successful. I believed that I had to have a college degree because I was sold that lie in order to be something in my life. Now, I will say this. If you are going to college, don't beat yourself up, but please do have a plan. Please do take the classes that you need that's in demand. But don't just go to college just to get a degree because what if the only reason you're getting the degree is because it runs in the family, that degree is going to collect dust. Then you're going to be left with the student loan. If you're not using it, you're going to lose it. So that also brings on the point, where along the lines in your life were you taught to overgive and overdo and go above and beyond and force yourself to go learn? How much learning is enough? And if you're going to school and it doesn't even go in line with what you really are going out there to do, and if the marketplace really wants that, then your degree isn't going to be worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears that you have been putting in. So I went to school. This is the lie I was sold. Overgive, Tiffany. Work 6 days a week, and then on the seventh day, which is church, you help out in the church. So that's what I was doing. working 6 days a week and going to school, could barely function. I was always sick, working at jobs that almost caused me to collapse. I was sick all the time, unhappy, wasn't taking time off because I didn't know. I had weekends and holidays off at these amazing, what I thought was an amazing medical job. But little did I know that I was set up in my life to fail. I was set up in my life to be so busy to look great. I was pressured into making decisions that did not align with where I really truly wanted to go. And it didn't dawn on me until within the last 10 years of my life, I have figured out that, boundaries prevent me from saying yes to everything. Boundaries protect my days off because I'm allowed to say no. I'm not going to get in trouble. And if any boss causes me to feel bad or guilts me into saying yes and they manipulate, because there's some bosses that do that, underlying manipulation, it's okay to say no. It's even okay to block some numbers. It's okay to not pick up extra shifts. It's also okay to say no at giving all your time to a four walls, say at church. It's okay to step away. It's okay to not overgive your free time to all these places. But I did it because it was praised. It was welcomed. It was accoladed. I got gold stars. But then I started noticing something. Everyone that was overgiving looked exhausted. It was the same thing. I remember even speaking to certain people and I would say, "Hey, how's it going?" The only thing that they could tell me out of their mouth was, "I'm so busy." Finally, I caught on and I was like, "What are you so busy with?" Every single time I see you, I'm not asking how busy you are. I'm just asking you how things are going. And then it got me thinking, what are you so busy with that you can't make time to just be, to step away? By the way, our mental health, there's a massive decline in mental health and physical health, especially in the workplace, especially in the medical career. In the medical field, you've got people burned out on their last leg, frazzled AF. You've got doctors, nurses, front office staff, medical staff, every department under the sun, down to housekeeping. If you work in a medical setting, you're going to know what I'm talking about. But also, people are burned out, bringing in 44-ounce sodas and eating junk food and sleeping on their lunch breaks, sleeping on their breaks but they don't know how to say no. This even this even shows up, the overgiving, with hanging out with friends. Like I said at the beginning of my podcast, saying no, learning to step away, learning to give yourself pause, learning to stop overgiving. It's painful at first. It's not easy. But when you start realizing my body is suffering, my mind, I can't function. But why do we praise stress? Why do we praise overgiving? Why do we praise overwhelm? Why do we praise chaos, dysfunction, disease? Do we why do we admonish? Why do we give people medals for being too busy? That makes no sense to me. But it also doesn't make sense to me anymore because I have hacked the system with what I'm telling you. Anyone that knows me now knows that I will happily tell them no in a heartbeat. No to family functions. There was a recent family function that I did not go to because I was not feeling well, because the thing I was diagnosed with, my energy level was very, very low. And I was not about to go sit in front of people, sit around people, just to look the part, just to show up, because I couldn't. There's no way I would not have been able to. Nobody else would have suffered. I would have been the one that suffered. Did I want to go and see people? Yes, I did. But I had to choose myself, and that was it. It was easy for me to say I can't go, but it was also hard at the same time because I had a thought in the back of my head that said, well, people are going to be mad. People are going to be disappointed because you can't go. It's we're remembering someone's life. And it's like, but at the same time, I shouldn't be expected to show up just because I'm expected to. So I didn't go. And I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel bad. I was like, I gotta rest. I stopped overgiving. I stopped worrying about who I'm going to piss off by having boundaries in my life. And anyone who does get pissed off at my boundaries, actually, you want to know something? I stopped overgiving to them and I've removed access. Why is that? Because when people disrespect me, I don't tolerate disrespect. Boundaries are a respect fence. They set the tone. They also set the tone in your career. Yes. Where do I see boundaries not pop up the most? In the medical field, in the medical career. I don't see a lot of people having strong boundaries around it. In fact, one of the one of the ways I know that what I'm talking about is landing is because there are a lot of conversations I have with people indicate to me that boundaries are lacking. A lot of people just don't know. A lot of people don't know that they're allowed to say no when they don't want to do something like hang out with family or that they don't want to have plans. A lot of people don't know that they can say no to hanging out with friends and staying up late when you have to work the next day because now you're sleeping at the desk. I've seen it. I've seen it in almost every job I've been in. I too used to uh, almost fall asleep at the desk. So I'm also talking about myself from experience. But this is where things get to change. This is where your life gets to change. This is where you get to make some really good decisions for your life. And it might be hard at first, but I'm here to tell you they get easier. You'll not die. I promise. You won't die. You will be okay. You will, if if you've been listening to my podcast for a long time or for a while now, you're going to realize that you are in charge of setting the tone for your life. You are in charge of creating that fence. You are in charge of creating peace for yourself. Nobody else is. Not your spouse, not your kids, not your coworkers, not your friends, and not your family. You are. You are responsible for what you choose to overgive. You are responsible for how you want to live your life. Nobody else. Now I can tell you that, you know, when you start setting boundaries and when you stop overgiving, it's almost going to be like you're going to be looked at like you have a plague. Because there's going to be people that are going to look at you and say, who do you think you are? And some people might verbally say that. Some people might get mad and angry. People aren't going to understand why you're deciding to take your life back and put yourself first. But last I checked, you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't owe anybody a reason why you want to better your life. It starts with no longer overgiving. Overgiving is the reason we burn out really fast. It's also a reason that we stay ill. Illness. For me in my own life, I've had a lot of illness because I didn't have boundaries to protect my peace. I didn't know what I know today. But I'm telling you, I've suffered. I've paid the price. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about paying the price with my mindset, my spirit. my soul, my body. I've paid the high cost. And now I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you the cost of overgiving. It even looks like in motherhood. This is how overgiving shows up in motherhood. We secretly, as moms, this is where I was in my life. We secretly desire to put ourselves first. We secretly want to know, when is it my turn? We want to know, when do I get to put myself first? When is anybody going to hear me? Why do I have so much on my to-do list every single freaking day? When do I get to put myself first? Why are my kids always put first? When do my needs get met? Or we start snapping at our kids, or we start snapping at our spouses, or we start snapping. We're unhappy. Maybe we're not sleeping. Maybe we're not staying hydrated. That's a boundary, by the way. Proper food, nutrition, rest, nutrition, staying hydrated. It's a boundary. Keeps you standing upright and functioning. Without it, like if you feed yourself crap all day, well, that's what's your body's going to feel like crap. So, it's in motherhood, it looks like piling on all these things in a to-do list where every single day you put yourself last, and then you're in bed and you're like, oh, I got to do it all again tomorrow. Gosh. Or there's this scenario, because this happened to me. You get caught up in the messaging that you have to do 2 hours of quiet time. It's routine. You got to do it, or you will be seen as less than from God. Because if you don't put God first in your life, then, you're less than, and he's not going to be happy. Or we put ourselves in a rigid routine where we spend over 2 hours in quiet time, reading his word and spending time. I'm not knocking this. What I'm saying is the messaging and suggestions that tell us to keep overgiving and put ourselves last is the reason why many are burnt out, including in motherhood. This is where it shows up. Then we beat ourselves up. We don't feel worthy. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't put my kids first, or oh my gosh, I didn't do this, or oh my gosh, I couldn't check this off my list. But when are you going to put yourself first? When does the cost of overgiving become too much? And so I want to say thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for listening. This is going to conclude today's episode. And yeah, overgiving doesn't mean that it's a grand gesture of how great you are. Overgiving doesn't mean that you're any more worthy than you were when you started overgiving. It's a way to constantly lose yourself, and before you know it, you'll be at the end of you'll be last on the list. Overgiving, a lot of people don't realize why they're burned out. It's because overgiving has become a part of their routine every single day. And I don't know about you, but it's okay to change your routine. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes to you, and you first.